Love Doc Podcast, Episode 4. I'm your co-host, Raina Butcher, here with the lovely Dr. Hensley.
Hey, hey.
Hey. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Dr. Hensley.
Well, I am a specialized social psychologist, and I've been studying the science of attachment and attraction inside romantic relationships for over 15 years. So I am here to answer everybody's burning relationship questions and talk about love and life and all things surrounding it.
And today we got a doozy. So today we are actually going to talk about probably one of your most, what I would say, controversial videos that you did on TikTok that actually went super, super viral.
Mega, ultra viral.
Yeah. In fact, I think on X, which used to be Twitter, it had like 17 million views.
Oh, it got up to like 30.
That's crazy.
Yeah. USA Today picked me up.
Yeah.
USA Today.
That is
Picked me
crazy. So I'm sure everyone's very curious what this topic is.
Mm-hmm.
And it is why women will not have sex with their husbands or AKA partners. And of course, this topic goes into deep-rooted pathologies of attachment and lots of different things that you're going to touch on today. And this is an opportunity really for you to get to expand on that video because it did go viral.
It did.
And it was only, like 7 minutes long? And it got quite
I don't remember how long it was.
But most of your videos are about 7-8 minutes long. But it got lots of people pretty upset. And so I think this is a really great...
The men.
It got the men really upset.
Let's face it, it was the men.
But here's the thing. What you're trying to do for men is teach them what it is that can make their sex life more fulfilling.
I'm trying to help them get laid.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, how can you hate on that, right?
Right? Don't be hating on that, guys.
I know, though, there was men listening quietly and taking notes.
Yes.
I know there were.
For sure. And those were the ones I think that gave you there were men that gave you good feedback.
Sure, there were a handful. Yeah. But a lot of men were very triggered.
Yeah, for sure.
And here's the crazy thing, though. I've been coaching now for a while, and when you try to support women, the men get really mad. When you try to support men, the women get really mad. The women want to blame all the relationship problems on men, and men want to blame it all on women. And the fact of the matter is, they're equally screwed up.
That's right. That's right. So we're not favoring men over women here, women over men. No. That's not what this is about.
No.
Really, ultimately, what this is about is what I just said, which is helping people, right? It's helping people, acknowledging what it is that, makes specifically a woman feel safe when it comes to intimacy.
Yeah.
And so, touch on that, because I know really what it's ultimately about is about emotional safety.
Right. It is. So in short-term relationships in the dating phase, there's a big physical attraction component. There's a huge chemistry component. In the honeymoon phase, we are releasing so many chemicals that make us physically attracted to someone, right? And so our sexuality can be largely driven by physicality and this physiological response. But in terms of long-term relationships, when those chemicals have died down and reality has set in and we see people's flaws and we've had conflict over time, sex takes on a little bit of a different role in a relationship. And individuals really struggle to understand how to keep the spark going.
Right.
To keep it where it's enjoyable and it's a priority. And there's very few things in relationships that I'm like, there's a clear gender difference here. But this is just one of them.
Yeah.
This is just one of them where being female is a very different experience in terms of one's sexuality in a long-term relationship versus being male.
Yeah.
And so for women, and I will die on this hill. I mean, hey, USA Today, I'll die on this hill, right?
Yeah.
For women, the biggest reason, not the only reason, but the biggest reason that they lose attraction for their husbands is because their attachment needs are not met. And because their attachment needs are going unmet, they do not feel emotionally safe with their husbands.
Right.
And if you do not feel emotionally safe, you lose your desire to open up your body.
Right.
Because there's lack of intimacy when safety goes. And being naked and doing the
Open.
dang thing
Yeah.
is intimate.
Yeah. Well, it's the most vulnerable you are.
It's extreme vulnerability.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if someone is hurting you emotionally, you will not want to open up your body to them.
Yeah.
And this, it like blew men away. Like this was this insane foreign concept.
You don't want to just have sex to have sex? Like, I feel like some of the men that, that hated on it were kind of had that mentality of like, wait, like, it's not just this physical thing. Right. Absolutely not.
Like there was the separation between sex and emotion.
Yeah.
Hate to tell you, in long-term relationships for women, these things go hand in hand.
100%. And I think that you and I, again, there's lots of examples we can give in terms of the attachment insecurities from a personal standpoint.
Oh, for sure.
Because we came from relationships that, we really struggled to be able to give ourselves fully to them sexually.
Absolutely.
Because we didn't feel emotionally safe.
Absolutely.
And I mean, without getting too deep into that, like some examples in terms of our personal life, but some examples of attachment insecurities, like real life examples. Give some examples of that.
Okay. So, this does require a little background on attachment. So I definitely think people should go over to my YouTube channel or my TikTok channel and kind of do some deep dives.
Yeah.
But for example, we may have somebody who has fearful avoidant attachment and they have a huge betrayal wound. And so their biggest attachment need is to trust. And that sort of takes the form of being seen, heard, and understood inside of their relationship. They really need to feel like somebody knows me deeply. My partner can predict me. My partner can sort of guess my needs and swoop in there and meet them for me because he knows me deeply. And since he knows me deeply and he meets my needs without having to be asked, I can trust him. Right? Pair somebody like that with a dismissive avoidant who is sort of emotionally blind, right? They don't study other people. They have the blinders on. They're very self-directed individuals. They miss cues for connection. They don't pick up on other people's needs and meet them very easily. And you have a recipe for that fearful avoidant woman to feel extremely emotionally unsafe because she feels like her needs are never being noticed. When she does bring them up, the dismissive avoidant does what dismissive avoidants do, and they dismiss other people's needs. Oh, you shouldn't feel that way. Oh, you're wrong. You're oversensitive. And so they have absolutely no way of getting their needs met inside of a relationship, especially their emotional needs.
And that's just the day-to-day things that they're dealing with.
Yeah.
Then you bring sex into the equation.
Right.
And it's like, oh, no.
Right.
Like you dismissed me over here 2 days ago.
You didn't care about me at all.
Right. And you expect me to give myself to you fully now? There's no way.
Right. It doesn't feel safe.
Right.
It feels like you don't care about me.
It feels icky.
It feels so icky.
It really does. And I know people gave you flack for even using the word icky, but I mean, there's no other way to describe it. Like and speaking of the FA, I was going to ask you like the FA dynamic because I feel like that's the backgrounds that we came from in our past relationships.
Yes. Yeah.
And I know that there was no emotional safety with my partner who was also an FA.
Right. Because fearful avoidants tend to be very emotionally reactive. They have the most trauma. They're triggered easily. They tend to have their dominant trauma response be the fight response. They are prone to getting more mean, more spiteful during conflict because if they've been made to be in pain, they need to make you in pain because their deepest need is to be understood. And so when they make you in pain, then in their subconscious mind, it's like, well, you made me in pain. I've made you in pain. The playing field's level. We understand each other. We can connect and we can work this out. Even though that's completely dysfunctional and doesn't make a lot of sense consciously, that's what ends up happening. And so you have two people who are hitting below the belt and really saying hurtful things or doing hurtful things, even becoming physically aggressive. And then how do you repair that to where you can be soft and open and loving and sensual and feminine and when somebody has called you horrible names or disrespected
and made you aggressive
terribly, or you've been in this abuse dynamic or whatever it is, there's all sorts of ways, depending upon your attachment style, that you may feel emotionally unsafe.
Yeah.
The dismissive avoidant woman, which they get no attention. So I'm going to bring to light, that attachment style for that gender. Their biggest need is for peace and harmony in relationships. And if they are married to an FA who is then hypercritical of them when the biggest thing that hurts them is criticism because they feel defective on the inside, they're not going to want to have sex with you.
Right.
Because they feel constantly criticized, constantly defective, constantly never enough, never doing it right. And how does that foster any degree of physical attraction?
You can't.
It's impossible.
So I'm curious, why do you think psychologically that men aren't the same? Why don't they have that same, or do they, right? Do they have some degree of having to feel emotionally safe as well to have sex?
I think it depends on their attachment.
Yeah.
But I also think there is a gender component.
Yeah.
I think that naturally, even anxious, preoccupied men, which is a little bit of a rare breed.
It is.
I rarely find a true anxious, preoccupied man, but I do have some in my practice. Even they can compartmentalize a little bit better than the anxious, preoccupied woman can.
Yeah.
There's a hormonal component. I mean, testosterone makes you want to get it on,
something
right?
physiological there.
So there's some different physiological aspects.
Yeah.
And when we study men's physiology, I mean, they can get into it more quickly than we can, right? And so I think their ability to compartmentalize plus just their faster physiological response makes it easier for them to meet that need and sort of put the problems in a box and get that need met, right? And then when it's over, realize that there's problems again, right? Like uncompartmentalize.
Yeah.
And a lot of women struggle more to do that. That's why the dismissive avoidants are largely men.
Yeah.
We see very few women dismissive avoidants. I would say it's probably an 85-15 split if I had to guess.
Yeah.
And fewer anxious, preoccupied men.
Yeah. And I wonder too if men are more apt to use it as this or view it as this Band-Aid, right? It's this way that they know things are not good.
Right.
But they feel like in this moment they can be, right? If I can be close, like this is sometimes the only way I can feel close to my partner, and I say this as a way to kind of give the men out there, some understanding because yes, there's this physiological standpoint, but also I think too, sometimes they think, well, this is my chance, to feel close to my partner
right.
too.
So if we have a dismissive avoidant man who really struggles with emotional vulnerability, like they're terrified of emotional vulnerability subconsciously, and so they're very emotionally distant. One of the ways that they do seek connection sometimes is just through physical intimacy.
Yeah.
And so when they don't get that, then there's no connection at all, right? Because that's the only form of connection that's safe connection.
Yeah.
And then number two, a lot of men use sex for validation.
Sure.
Because if you think about the culture, you think about teenage boys.
Yeah.
You have a teenage boy.
Yeah, I do.
And so you're sort of like, you're a little bit in that culture. I mean, we remember teenage boys from high school.
And let's be honest, I mean, females seek sex for validation as well.
Yeah, I think in a different way, though.
Yeah.
I think men seek it for outside validation and women seek it for internal validation.
Sure. Yeah, 100%.
And I think women, especially younger women, and this is heartbreaking, but this is honestly my personal opinion. I don't have any science behind this. Some women, when there's such attachment insecurities, they feel like that's the only card they have to play.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they play it first.
100%.
Because they feel like it's the ace, up their sleeve. And if it means doing that versus being abandoned, well, I'm going to do that, right? Because my fear of abandonment is so big.
Yeah.
Right? So there's some internal validation there that I'm wanted, I'm chosen if I do this, right? And that might sort of make me more attractive or that will make them want me. But actually, the research shows the opposite.
Yeah. Yeah.
The research shows the exact opposite.
Yeah.
That if you hold out, you have such a higher probability of that man bonding with you.
Right.
and actually sticking around.
Right. And ultimately a better sex life.
Oh, goodness, yes.
Because achieving your attachment security, I mean, that's one benefit of achieving your attachment security is that you just have an overall better sex life.
Oh, my goodness.
Because the intimacy is, I mean, you experience sex on this deeper level. You have more connection with your partner. You feel safer. You know, I mean, there's all these things that allow you to just enjoy it so much more.
You can fully enjoy the pleasure. You can let go.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of women can't experience pleasure during sex is because they cannot let go. They cannot let go of how do I look?
Right.
What's busy in my head for the day or my problems.
I still struggle with this.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't get in a mental space where I can truly be free. Free of judgment, free of my judgment against myself, of fearing of my partner judging me, right? And I can just let go and just focus on the pleasure.
Yeah.
The more secure you get, the easier it is to do that.
Yeah.
Because you're letting go of the judgment of yourself. And if you are in a secure and healthy relationship, your partner is only reinforcing how wonderful you are and beautiful and accepted you are. And when you feel fully accepted and fully beautiful and fully loved and safe.
Yeah.
And for women, it's such about safety.
100%.
Because we are the more vulnerable sex. And that's biblical. It says we're the weaker sex. And people get so offended by that. Oh, gosh. Okay.
People get offended.
All right.
By
Let's get in the weight room and let's take the average 10 men and the average 10 women and let's see who can lift more weights. Right?
Yeah.
I doubt that men have to walk around every day in a dark parking lot worrying about whether they're going to be assaulted.
Right.
That doesn't happen very often. Yeah. We worry about it every day of our lives.
Every single day.
We're the weaker freaking sex, right? And it is of the masculine to want to be protected, but not just physically. And that's what men run with. They're like, well, I'm this physical provider. I'm this financial provider. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you the emotional provider for your household?
Right.
You should be in charge of the emotions of your household. You should be who everybody's looking to.
100%.
For the emotional tone of the house.
Yeah. And a spiritual leader as well.
Absolutely. And that goes hand in hand.
It all goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, if you take those components that you just listed, I mean, that really is living in true masculine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And not having that wounded masculine.
Oh, yeah. The wounded masculine's terrible.
Yeah.
It's awful. It's toxic. And, you know, I even don't like the word toxic masculinity. But the wounded aspect of the masculine, yeah, it can be
Touch
toxic.
on that because I'm curious and I'm sure.
Because I think it's gone too far, right? There's always like the pendulum that just swings too far. And when we start acting like all masculinity is toxic, then we're in trouble.
Right.
Masculinity is needed.
Yes.
It is needed. But but people don't understand what masculinity is. Like being vulnerable is masculine because it's brave.
Yeah.
It is not brave to be completely stoic and hide all of your emotions and run off and go into your turtle shell and just then distract your way through life.
Right.
Because of fear of telling your truth and being who you are. And because with vulnerability, there's fear of rejection, there's fear of judgment, and that's freaking brave.
Yep.
And so really masculine men are vulnerable with their emotions with women.
And that's what some men not all, but some men don't fully understand, or they're just reluctant to want to accept that. You know, they feel like they have to be, you know, Thor or
Tough Guy McGee all the time. Yeah.
Or like Superman. And that's not the case here because, and you know, and that kind of brings up the idea that men also need to soften to the idea. This is something that I touched on a few times within your practice when I was coaching with a few clients that had that wounded masculine that felt like they had to always be, you know, chest puffed out, you know, I got to take care of this and I got to take care of that. When no, what I was trying to teach him was actually you also need to soften. You need to become more vulnerable. You need to become more accepting of things that, you know, your partner may want to do that doesn't feel like something that she shouldn't do because it feels too masculine. And that's something that you have to do for her. Like, that's not what it's always about. And it teeters, right? Like, there has to be this really great balance between the feminine and the masculine. And even though, I mean, we kind of went down this rabbit hole, it just kind of, that's where, when it comes to intimacy and sex, it leads you, right?
Right.
Because it's when you're in an intimate sexual relationship, it's all about the roles of the masculine and the feminine.
Yeah.
Because they come to light.
They do. And so the true masculine, the unwounded, secure masculine is a leader without being bossy. He is a decision maker while taking into deep consideration the needs, wants, and desires of his partner. He is a doer. So he is not passive, waiting for somebody else to make the decision. He is a doer. But because he is so intimately in touch with his wife, he chooses things that ultimately make her happy.
That's the disconnect. That's where we've lost touch.
Because he uses the data on his wife to make the decisions.
Yep.
Because he has developed the capacity to study her.
Right.
Right?
And he's taken inventory.
And he thinks about things. And then he leads. And then the feminine is to receive.
Yep.
The masculine is absolutely to give, and the feminine is to receive.
Yep.
And when women can truly receive, that load, I mean, women always complain about the mental load, right?
Yeah.
It's just lifted.
Yeah.
And it is the most freeing. I'm getting chills
Me
saying
too.
this.
Me too.
Because I experienced this in my marriage.
Same.
And it is insanely beautiful. And it makes me want to rip my husband's clothes off on a daily basis.
Right. Yes.
I just want to get on that man all the time.
Right. Well, and this is the crisis, right? This subject that we're discussing right now is the marriage crisis. If you really think about it,
it is.
Because it's women taking on too much and not allowing their men, or the men just expecting to be taken care of.
Yeah.
And sitting back and, watching their TV shows while, their wife runs around cooking and cleaning and doing 7 loads of laundry, and there's no true partnership there.
Right.
And then there is this imbalance. There's this imbalance of, things that you have to get done within the house. But there is also this imbalance of feeling like there's the females taking on too many roles that the man should do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, attachment needs are huge because that really makes an important difference, right? Like a dismissive, avoidant woman is going to need a lot more space than an anxious, preoccupied woman, right? So meeting specific attachment needs is really, really important. However, if we zoom out, right, the science really shows us what happy marriages look like, okay? If we zoom out, and the happiest marriages are where the man is the leader and the decision maker, and gosh, the feminists are going to come after me. But when he is the leader and the decision maker, what he's doing is he has taken into account all of the wants and needs of his wife. And that is the primary piece of data he's using in his decision making.
Right.
But he's taking the load off of her of having to make the hard decisions, right? And when there is deep trust, there is no problem in allowing your husband to do that. Because I fully 100% know that every decision that my husband makes is going to be for my well-being. And I am 99.9999% likely to be extremely happy with that decision. And that is because we have true intimacy. He is in his true masculine. I am in my true feminine. And then our sex life is great because of that.
Right.
Because I can let go and I can be free and I can receive. And he knows that I respect him and I trust him. And men equate love with respect.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
And men feel so good being the leader.
They do.
They feel so good being the leader. Nothing makes them happier. And let me tell you how this role reversal starts. It starts when, and this happened in my first marriage, you've got a young couple, they start playing house, and the woman's like, I want that house, and I want that car, and I want this many babies, and I want all these things. And the man really just truly wanting to make his wife happy is the yes man.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get that big house that we really can't afford.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll get you that car that we really can't afford.
Right.
Okay, we'll have that third child that even though we're drowning in two, but you've got baby fever, we'll have that third child.
Right.
And then here's what happens. She becomes insanely overwhelmed by all those choices that she made because in her mind, when she made them and he said yes, he was going to equally contribute to holding half of it up.
Yeah.
Right? But that's not how he views it in his mind.
Right.
He was like, you wanted it, you manage it.
I gave it to you.
I gave it to you. I helped pay for it. What more do you want?
Right. Right.
And so now she's juggling this mental load
And
of how do I take all care of all these kids and
Yeah.
how do I, we're behind on the bills and we've got all these things. And then and the more criticized he gets, he becomes more passive and he becomes more checked out. And this is not all men.
Sure.
Okay, this is not all men. This tends to be, I would say,
You're
a lot
just
more of the
describing
avoidant men.
70% of
Yeah, maybe
people's-
70%,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then the woman's mad.
Right.
And she's
She
exhausted.
resents him.
And she resents him.
And then
for
she
sure.
doesn't feel safe. And then she doesn't want to have sex with him.
Right. And then he's over here confused as absolute get out.
I gave everything.
you
I gave
wanted
you
all
everything
this.
you wanted. Right.
And now you're unhappy. Like you're never happy. You're never happy. And then that's their
Yeah.
mentality. And then the
Yeah.
women. And so here's the thing. Women play a role in this too. Women need to look to their husbands to be the final decision maker. Oh my gosh, I'm going to get nailed to the cross for this. But pick a husband that you are absolutely sure
Right.
will make a sound and wonderful decision that you will be happy
Yeah.
with.
Here's a great example within my marriage. I married someone who has no children. I have a child. And I would 100%, even in my 40s, if my husband came to me and said, I want a child, and I think this is something we should do, I would 100% give him that child.
So different than me. I've been like,
Or at least I would try to. I know Sarah told me one time, $5 million. You want another kid?
$5 million. You're going to have to come up with $5 million and I'll do it.
But so there have been moments. Yeah, there have been moments where we have decided, of course, to not have children.
Yeah.
And I have a child, but there have been moments that I have said, let's have a child.
Yeah.
Let's do this. And instead of being a yes man, Josh has stood firm and saying, no, this isn't what our life is going to be. I am okay with this. I love you. What we have is enough. And we are going to build this beautiful life together.
Yeah.
And then I can sit back and because as a female, it's difficult for me to let that part of myself go.
Right.
Right? Like I told him once that like I was mourning my womb, like
Yeah.
literally. And but I trust him. I trust that when he says, not that I haven't brought it up a few times, but I trust when he says that he is okay. He has accepted that part of his life, that he will never father children. I trust that that is his truth.
Yeah.
And so I live it. And I live the fact, too, that our life will be wonderful without it.
Girl, who's going to get to travel,
No.
sleep?
I know. I get to sleep now. It's great. It's amazing. I know.
You mean you don't have a child screaming in the Alexa at 2 a.m. because they're too hot or they need a drink of water or coming and standing in your face and scaring the absolute crap out of you?
I know.
I mean, we're just starting to get out of that. Our youngest is 6 and we're just starting to get out of that.
It's still hard though, because my husband is just this wonderful, beautiful, morally just man that would just make the most beautiful father. And so like part of me mourns it for him as well.
Right.
But again, I trust that when he says, "Hey, this is something that even before I met you, I had to be okay with." Right. Like I had accepted that, I was a little long in the tooth and, that, children for me probably just wasn't going to happen, and so, and he takes his job as a stepfather very, very serious. Yeah. And he's
a good dude.
He is. He's
such a good dude. And that's the thing. And man, doesn't that give you some respect for him though?
Absolutely.
That he stood his ground.
Because he could be like, all right,
Let's do
You want a
this.
baby, if you're mourning your womb, I'll try to give you a baby.
That mourning your womb is probably kind of fleeting.
It is.
And a hormonal decision. And he's able to see a little bit past that.
Yep.
Right? And into the future and trajectory of your lives and taking into account how you live your lives now and everything he knows about you and everything he knows about what you really want.
100%.
Right? And so, there usually ends up having to be a final decision maker. Now, I always stress compromise. I mean, my whole foundation of coaching is about things have to work for both people. And at the end of the day, when you got two people, somebody's got to be the tiebreaker. Right? And you need to have a man that you trust enough that his tie-breaking decision is going to ultimately be the right one. So when he makes it, you can let go and be like, I trust it. Okay. And I feel good about that. And I feel relieved. I actually feel relieved.
Yeah. Yes.
I feel relieved. And it's free.
Gosh,
And it's great. And it's wonderful.
Take this load. Thank you very much.
And man, I don't think there's anything that turns a woman on more than that.
No.
There's nothing that makes me want to have sex more with my husband than when he makes a decision.
Yeah, it's very sexy.
It's so sexy.
Yeah.
I don't even want to choose where we eat.
Yeah.
I don't want to make any. I don't want to make any real decisions.
Yeah, I'm still learning. I have to admit, I'm still learning to let that part of me go. Another, real life example is, I randomly bought chickens online and without talking to my husband about it. And I will say he wasn't happy about it.
Yeah.
He was like, why would you buy 4 chickens without at least telling me that you're going to do this, but again, he's been a trooper in terms of, and this is one reason why I do respect Josh so much, is that I can do something that maybe is the old me, and he puts me in my place. And so then it allows me to really recognize that, I just did something that the old me really would have done. And
that caused problems for you.
Yeah. Because, even though it's kind of this ongoing joke now about the chickens, because chickens are a lot of work. Don't let anybody tell you any different. So now he's had like all these projects that he has to do, like chicken projects. And he's made these jokes like, well, your next husband's really going to love that project because he's kind of putting his foot down. But Josh really puts me in my place too. Not only is he great at like making decisions, but he puts me in my place when I am maybe when I'm being too controlling
but in a loving way.
Absolutely.
In a respectful way.
In a compassionate
in a kind way.
Yeah.
And that's the difference.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about a man bossing around a woman.
No.
No. There's no bossing around.
No.
There's no controlling going on here at all.
There's mutual respect.
There's mutual respect, for sure.
That's really what it is. It's just mutual respect.
It is mutual respect. And so that's the zoomed out perspective. If we zoom in and we get really specific, what makes each woman feel emotionally safe is absolutely related to her attachment style.
Yeah.
So I agree there's this gender component where women need to be in their feminine. They need to feel free. They need to be of the receiving. They need to be able to trust. They need to feel lots of respect for their husbands, and that turns them on. Mm-hmm. But part of the way that we get there is through her individual attachment needs being met, right? Mm-hmm. So the anxious, preoccupied person really needs reassurance. Mm-hmm. They need lots of words of affirmation that they are loved. Mm-hmm. They need lots of quality time spent with them. They actually want all the love languages.
I was gonna say, they need
all of them. They need all of the things equally, right? They
Yeah.
want the gifts, the touch, the quality time, the acts of service. And they need it a lot. And I mean, they do. Their needs bucket is big. And yeah, do they need to do some work around that? Absolutely. But if you know this about your partner and you love them and you're trying to love them in a way that feels good to them, some sensitivity to that and being aware of that and doing what you can to meet their needs.
While setting your own boundaries.
Right? is going to make her more physically attracted to you because she's going to feel safe.
Right. And more secure.
If you're a fearful avoidant woman, fearful avoidants want to be loved for who they are, and they want to be seen, heard, and understood. They want to be their messy, dysregulated, quirky self and still be loved and know that they're not going to be abandoned and they're not going to be judged.
That's me.
Yeah, me too. They want to be seen, heard, and understood deeply. They want people to study them because they study other people. Yeah. And they want people to anticipate their needs and meet them. And my husband is so good at anticipating my needs. Am I at my desk and I don't have my water? Yeah. Guess what? He notices that I left it on the counter and brings it to me. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Like it's those little things.
It is.
All throughout the day.
The small interventions.
The small little things that he notices about me and swoops in there and does it. Yeah. And that is leadership.
Yeah, it is.
That is leadership. That is safety. That is protection. That is leadership. That is intimacy. And I feel so cared for and so safe with him. And we have the same attachment style, right? Like he's a former fearful avoidant. I'm former FA. We've both earned our security. But we are both hypervigilant. We both have the same need to be seen, heard, and understood. Yeah. And I think it works because we meet that for each other really well. Right. The dismissive avoidant woman does not want to be criticized. She wants to be spoken to really gently, really softly. She wants to be seen as good. She wants to be seen as somebody who is valued in the relationship for, all of her qualities, especially her drivenness and her focus. And her hard work. They're usually really, really hard workers. Yeah. They want to just be asked if their partner has a need, they just want to say, hey, could we do this?
Right.
I would really like it if we did this thing or if this happened in our relationship. Instead of you don't do this and I don't like it.
Right.
Right? That is so painful. The attachment style that can accept criticism the least is the dismissive avoidant.
Yeah, because they feel so defective.
They feel so defective. And so if you have a dismissive avoidant woman and you're criticizing her all the time and you're saying, you don't prioritize me and you didn't do this and you're not thoughtful and you're, they're just going to shut down.
Yeah.
They're just going to shut down. And so when you're not meeting a woman's attachment needs, she cannot be in her feminine energy.
Yep.
She cannot feel safe to receive. Yep. And let's face it, a lot of what helps us be in the mood is receiving.
That's right. That is ultimately what you have to be able to do.
Yeah.
So
you have to be able to receive it.
Yeah.
Even think about the physiology in our anatomy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's what I just meant. Yeah.
The men are the givers and the women are the receivers. Not always.
Right.
But it's tipped in that balance. Right?
Yep. Yep. So there's all these components. It's spiritual. It's physical.
Yeah.
It's emotional. But ultimately, it all equates to safety.
Safety.
Yeah. And feeling safe with your partner.
And the definition of safety has not been well defined. Men have a okay, let me take that back. Not all men.
Right.
Many men. The haters that were commenting on Twitter have a skewed view of what safety in a marriage looks like.
Yep.
They think I'm a physical protector and I'm a financial provider.
And that's enough.
What more does she want?
Right.
She wants you to love her in the way that she wants to be loved.
Yeah.
She wants you to pay attention to what her needs are, and she wants you to meet those needs emotionally for her. Yeah. And then she will feel motivated and turned on.
And then she'll do the same for you.
Yes. And then in return, you're going to get respect and you're going to get trust and you're going to get kindness and lots of great sex.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to help you out, dude.
Yeah. Don't come at us, okay? Because we are really truly trying to help the guys out here.
And there's just a lot of science behind this.
Yeah.
This is not just some random psychologist's opinion about this.
Yeah.
There's science around the happiest marriage dynamics. And the happiest marriage dynamics are ones where the man is the leader of his household physically, emotionally, spiritually, and financially.
Yep. Check.
Check.
Yeah. Well, I think that this was a great opportunity really for you to expand on this subject and hopefully clear up some things. You know,
Yeah.
you might still have some haters coming you. I don't
Oh
know.
gosh, yeah. But you know what? I don't care.
I know you don't. I know you don't.
You know how little I care about
I
hate.
know. And I'm so
It matters this much.
I'm so proud
0%.
of you for that. I really am.
I refuse to live a life where I am not authentic and where I
Yeah.
don't speak my truth.
Yeah.
Because that's a prison.
That is a prison.
Talk about feeling free.
Mm-hmm.
Being free and inner peace are like hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
And if you let what somebody else that doesn't even know you,
Mm-hmm.
like their opinion bother you, that's a prison.
Yep. Yeah.
I don't want to be in that prison, and I won't be in it, and I never will be.
I know.
So
I'm really proud of you for
hate
that.
on. You just drive up the traffic. Go ahead.
Right.
Comment away.
That's right. I feel like it was probably a lot of the haters that actually really drove the algorithm for that video
For sure.
to go viral.
Thank you, haters.
Yeah, that's right.
USA Today linked my website.
That's right. Well, if you are having intimacy issues within your relationship and you want to learn more about Dr. Hensley's services, please visit her website at thedatingdecoder.com. And please continue to tune in to this podcast. We have so much more to come. And, you know, I say it every time, Dr. Hensley has so much knowledge to share with us. And she's just this huge, huge, great resource when it comes to your intimate relationships. So please like, subscribe, follow, all the things, share, etc., etc.
We love you. Thank you for
we
listening.
love you. And listen, here's to good sex, right?
Heck
like that is just this wonderful part
I didn't
of life.
even know what good sex
Me
was
neither,
until this
honey.
marriage.
Me neither.
I didn't even know. I had no clue.
I had no idea. And really what good sex equates to is true intimacy. And I'm just so grateful that I now have it. And
Me too.
and honestly, again, what we're trying to do here is teach people so that everybody can have that, right? We want everyone to have
For sure.
that deep, intimate experience that we get to have with our partners.
Again, and nothing that I'm saying here isn't backed up by psychological research,
Right.
by solid science.
Yeah.
I mean, we've studied marriage dynamics. We've studied sex. We know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's not just like, oh, this is some rambling opinion.
Right.
No, I mean, there's a science to this,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think that's why, and again, this isn't the only reason, okay? I'm not saying the only reason women don't have sex with their husbands is because they're not in their feminine energy and because their attachment needs aren't being met.
Right.
There are other factors.
Sure.
But when we're talking about the most common things, the biggest reasons, that's what it is.
Yep. Well, if you want to learn more about Dr. Hensley's services, please visit her at thedatingdecoder.com and continue to tune in. And until then, peace, love, and perspective.